Hello, my name is Chris Purnagam and I give leadership to the Migration and Refugee Network of the WEA. Today I'd like to address the theme of migrants as messengers. Adam was moved out of Eden. Abraham was called moved away from the Ur of the Chaldees. Moses driven out of Egypt and moved alongside the Israelites, directed towards Canaan, the promised land. The prophets moved with the ark wherever it went. In fact, God's people have always been a people on the move. And then, of course, came the move of all moves when Jesus moved into our neighborhoods. When we talk about migration today, we tend to look at it from a very narrow time-focused perspective, a slice of time, a context. And when we talk about missions, our tendency has been to frame it as a task, something that God has asked us to do. I believe that both these assumptions bear inherent flaws. Let's examine them. First, God neither exists nor is constrained by linear time. In fact, God made time. So for God, therefore, migration and movement of people is a timeless phenomenon. In fact, it lives outside the parameters and constraints of time itself. Migration, therefore, in God's economy is not as much of a phenomenon that we have to pay attention to as it is an integral part of His plan for the redemption of His world. If we begin to see it this way, we may begin to understand the significance of people on the move and then grasp the eternal significance of how all of us, whether we migrated or not, are a part of God's redemptive plan for the universe. Acts 17:26 says, "From one man He made all nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And He marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands." The second flawed assumption, in my opinion, is in our understanding of the word mission itself, and specifically what we refer to as the Great Commission. For a longer and more expansive explanation of this, please send me an email. I'll be happy to engage. But in essence, here's the issue. The Great Commission, as we have come to name it, in the passage in Matthew 28:18-20, is not primarily a mandate for world missions nor evangelism. It is rather a mandate for church growth. Yes, I'll give us time for that to sink in. Sure, we have been tasked with proclaiming the gospel, the good news of the gospel. We have been encouraged to live and proclaim the gospel. But when it comes to mission, our mission is not primarily to go on mission, but to participate with God in mission. Let's not forget that God is the one reconciling all things to Himself, and we are but ambassadors of that process. It is God who is on mission. A deeper and thorough exploration and study of Matthew 28:18-20 will reveal to us that this is not a great commission that we have been given or mandated, but a great co-mission that we have been invited into. As I said before, this invitation is not primarily for going out on mission as much as it is a rallying call and strategy for growing the church. A study of the original Greek version of the passage reveals a very poor interpretation that has been given to it, and consequently the incorrect emphasis we have placed on it, i.e. being a mandate for missions. But we can discuss that later on if any of you are interested. Suffice to say at this point is that Matthew 28:18-20 is Jesus' strategy for growing the church, the core mission of the church. It was not a special instruction given to special people to undertake a special task. It was a common calling to ordinary believers to participate in the extraordinary mission of growing the church. It is our calling to be in co-mission with God. So, how does all of this inform our topic today, migrants as messengers? To begin, I quote from Professor Yehu Hanseli's book. He's a native of Sierra Leone, now domiciled in the US. His book is named Migration and the Making of Global Christianity. And I quote, "When all is said and done, the rise of Christianity as a world movement has been predominantly through the agency and activity of migrants, individuals and communities living as strangers and outsiders in foreign lands. Every Christian migrant is a potential missionary." So a point worth noting in kingdom terms is that migration is not a specially identified occasion for a mission opportunity. It is a way that God actualizes his mission. Every Christian, Christ follower is on mission. That's what Matthew 28 is about. Migrants are no exception. It is actually a great opportunity for learning. Yes, it provides us opportunity for engagement, learning, exchange, and a chance to share the good news. But it is not an object or subject of missions. The Great Commission calls us to disciple people of all ethnic. And so, in fact, we are the subject of mission, that of growing church by engaging with all those we interact with on a daily basis. This means that we as Christ followers should learn to understand our neighbor and co-workers, including those who have moved newly into our neighborhoods, i.e. migrants, and practice radical hospitality and unconditional welcome. God is moving people all the time, within nations and between nations, all with the singular purpose of expanding his kingdom. In our current time-constrained understanding of migration, we in Western society mostly refer to migrants as those who migrate to the countries we live in from the developing world. As you are aware, migrants consist of many types. Refugees, whether they are a result of man-made or natural disasters, students, economic migrants, temporary workers, and others who end up making their host country their home. At present, many who arrive at our doorstep come from the countries that are close to the gospel and their messengers, especially those we refer to as Western missionaries. How then do migrants become messengers? First, they bring stories and culture that we in the West would do well to pay attention to. Unfortunately, whether it is sending missionaries or accepting migrants from those countries we want to convert, we still have ingrained in us that patronizing sense of we have something that we want to give you, that unwittingly leaves us with a power differential in our relationship with them. I have experienced this myself. Second, migrants as messengers to their own people. Many migrants arrive in Western countries, meet Jesus, get trained, educated, and discipled in the ways of Jesus, and return to spread the gospel in their own countries of birth. Others who already know Jesus come to the West to receive training and equipping and then return to their home countries to train others. Third, migrants very often show us how to live out our faith. Especially now, many migrants come from countries and regions of conflict. They have become resilient and learned how to depend on no one but the Holy Spirit and to live out their faith in ways that resemble the persecuted church of the first century. Having witnessed how God is very real through all the circumstances of life, how God delivers people from oppression, whether demonic or otherwise, migrant Christians, especially from the global south, know what it is to serve and follow a God who is powerful, real, and who deserves our fullest obedience. Fourthly, migrants provide host communities a chance of learning and exercising hospitality. Often newcomers don't have the wherewithal to integrate quickly into society and look to host communities or individuals to show them how. Engaging in this process, it gives us a chance of not remaining in a self-serving bubble, but to look outside ourselves and towards the needs of others. Fifthly, and certainly not lastly, migrant communities of faith are shaping the Western church whether we like it or not. Over the next 100 years or so, the Western church will change to reflect a more universal and diverse church. That is a fact. Migration gives us the opportunity of engaging that shaping process together, intentionally, so that we may begin to look like the church described in Revelation 7, verse 9. Every nation, every tribe, every tongue standing before the great white throne and the Lamb. Then, as God gives us understanding and we begin to establish trust, we will be given opportunities to learn and share and grow as one church together. Thank you, and let's engage on this as the days go by. May God bless you.